name is Tyler Loretz. I am the former band captain here at Arkansas Tech University with the Band of Distinction. I marched with the Blue Coats in 2019 and previously with the Blue Knights in 2017 and 2015. And I'm just here to kind of walk you through some basics. The purpose of this video is to serve as a supplement to the marching basic sheet that I've developed, and it's just to provide visual aid to the descriptions of the exercises so that you and your students will have a solid idea of what to do. Practicing marching fundamentals should be approached the same way as we practice our instruments. If we want the concepts that are covered through the fundamentals to translate into other contexts, we have to practice them until they're second nature, and so we can recreate them with ease. So the order of the basics as outlined in the fundamental sheet is my preferred approach to a fundamental block. First up, we have the posture breakdown. The purpose of this exercise is to isolate different points in our body that need to be aligned for a confident, proper posture out on the field. The reason I like to do this exercise first is because if we're not actively thinking about our posture, it's difficult for all these points to be aligned naturally. So this just makes our students aware of what they need to do to have that proper posture. So you're going to want to use something to keep time through this exercise, whether it's a metronome or a designated song that goes with the exercise. You want to keep the tempo relatively slow, maybe around 60 beats per minute, just so we can really focus on isolating each zone in our body. We're going to start with our head, then our shoulders, upper chest, our lower back, and legs. And when we're moving each of these, we want to make sure that each of those zones is moving independently. We're not moving our shoulders when we should be moving our head, for example. And so I'm just going to go ahead and throw this on and then talk you through the exercise. 5, 6, 7, 8. Start with the head, 2, chin to the chest. Then our shoulders are going to roll forward. And then our upper back. Then our lower back. And then our legs. And then once you're down here in this collapsed posture, you just want to stay down here for a little bit, really feel what that compression of all these different zones feels like. And then we're going to come back up in reverse order. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Start with the legs. 2, 3, 4. Lower back. Then our upper back and chest. Then roll the shoulders up and back. Then our head. And at the end, we should be in this nice, tall, expanded posture. It'll feel like there's a string pulling up on the top of our head, nice and tall. Find something in the distance to focus on, and really just sit in that confidence for a little bit before you relax. So next, I like to use the high mark time in my fundamental routine. Even if there's not high mark time anywhere else in our technique that we're using, this exercise is fantastic for forcing us to engage our core and maintain our balance and keep time with a consistent motion all at once, which is obviously something that would be a useful skill to have for marching band. I like to do this with horns just because it forces us to really maintain that posture regardless of whatever instrument is in our hand. And so I like to start with my feet parallel, and what we're going to do is we're going to be starting with our left foot, our toe up and our knee in front of us, and then it's going to be following our calf up to about our knee, and then it's going to come back down, touch, and roll back into the ground. And this is going to be in time at around 60 beats per minute would be a good starting spot. The slower it is, the harder you're going to have to work to maintain that balance, which might be good for overtraining, but initially I'd start at around 60. And so, in context, what's going to happen is, let me turn on my metronome here. So now that we have the metronome going, I'm just going to jump right into it. So with our feet parallel, you can either do this in set or playing position. And after the count in, 5, 6, 7, 8, up, off, 3, 4 E and a down, 2, 3, touch and 1, off, 3, 4 E and a down, 2, 3, touch, and. So throughout the exercise, I was using vocals to keep time. I think that that'll be really helpful for just isolating the different motions that we need to have happen through this. So I like to say at the beginning, 1, off. So right on 2 is where my toe comes up from the ground. And then for 3 and 4 anda is when my toe is following my calf up to my knee. I like to subdivide the 4 anda just so I have that consistent motion. I'm not just holding it at the top. And then on the way back down, so 1, 2, 3, 4 anda, down, 2, 3, touch, and. So the touch is where my toe reconnects with the ground and my foot rolls down to start on the other side. And when you're watching your band do this, you want to make sure that you're staying tall and lifted. Otherwise, when you're going on one foot, you're going to lean one way or the other. If you were to film your band and cut off the video so it's just their upper halves, it should look like they're just standing still. So after breaking it down with the slower tempo, we're going to do it at a faster tempo now. And you can adjust the metronome however you need, just for the needs of your band. But for this, I'm just going to keep it at 60 with each leg getting 1 full count. So I'll be subdividing the and on the up and down. And again, for this, we want to make sure that we're keeping our upper body nice and level. We're not swaying back and forth, maintaining that same control we had at the slower tempo, even though we're just going faster. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1. And 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. So as you see, it's just the same thing, just a lot faster, still working to maintain all those checkpoints we had at the slower tempo, even though we're going faster now. So the next basic is step and freeze. And this exercise is going to focus on the step off, whether it's forward or backward. So I like to do this exercise because I believe that the step off can make or break the rest of the move. We want to make sure that we're teaching our students how to step off not only in time, but also what to do with their weight when they're stepping off. They're not just sticking their foot out in front, they're actually moving their weight with it as well. So you're going to want a metronome for this one as well, just so we really focus on stepping off in time. I'm going to have mine at around 90 for this exercise. And so we're just going to begin this one at our set or playing position. I like it with instruments just so we can plug it into context a little easier. But so we're going to be here at set, and then after the count off, we're just going to take 1 step and freeze. 5, 6, 7, push, and 1. And so while we're frozen in this position, if our weight is not equally distributed between our front and back leg, it's going to be really hard for us to keep our balance. And so on that freeze, our left foot, our toes are going to be pointed up in the air, and our heel is going to be on the ground, and we're going to be pushing from our right back leg, and we're going to be up on the ball of that foot. I like to say push in 1 just because it really reinforces what we have to do with our right leg there to get that momentum going forward. Because if we're not using that active push, what's going to happen is we're going to have this, where all of our weight is back, and we have to play catch up for the rest of the move. Whereas if we push with that right leg, get that momentum going forward, we'll have a nice boom. And we're able to maintain that balance, staying nice and tall, and set ourselves up for a successful rest of the move. So this exercise can also be modified for backwards march, just backwards 1 step and freeze. You can also add additional counts to it if you want to work on checkpoints between yard lines, so maybe 2 steps and freeze, check and adjust, something like that. But with the backwards march, you really want to make sure that we're not sinking into that first step. We're staying nice and tall, 7, 8, and 1. Staying nice and tall, we're not allowing ourselves to do anything weird with our body weight. Again, just to set us up for success for the rest of the move. So the next basic focuses on step size, and how we're going to approach this is we're going to be moving between yard lines. Again, this can either be done forward marching or backward marching, but I like to go through 16 to 5, 12 to 5, 8 to 5, and 6 to 5, just to cover that wide variety of step sizes. And you're going to begin by doing each one individually, so 16 to 5, check and adjust, then 12 to 5, so on. And then ultimately you're going to be plugging the different step sizes together into larger reps. So maybe 2 yard lines with going from a 16 to 5 to 8 to 5, or 12 to 5 to 6 to 5. And as you can see, there's just a lot of different ways you can mix those around. Ultimately, I like to getting to doing all 4 at once, like 16 to 5, then 12 to 5, 8 to 5, 6 to 5. Because at the end of the day, marching band shows are not always 8 to 5. You know, we have to be comfortable with moving in all kinds of ways, and this exercise is great for helping us get familiar with that. So just to kind of demonstrate what I mean, on this rep, I'm just going to do a 16 to 5 into an 8 to 5 and close. Again, the tempo on this one doesn't really matter. Obviously, the faster it is, the harder it'll be to maintain those step sizes, so it just kind of depends on where your ensemble is at. And 5, 6, 7, push, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 8 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plant, close. I highly recommend counting out loud too, just because that gives the kids an indicator where they should be and gives us some more information on how they're doing and what adjustments need to be made. So during that exercise, you may have noticed that I tended to stick to a heel on dot, and that's just always been my personal preference, just because I feel like my center of gravity is more over my heels than the arch of my foot. But that's just me. I know that both methods are applicable. So next we have what I call the T-pose exercise. This is intended to target slides and what we have to do to get that rotation in our shoulders around so we're not doing anything weird or holding tension where we shouldn't be. And so essentially, this exercise can be plugged into a bunch of different exercises, like the step size exercise or the Donkey Kongs, which we'll get to later. But basically, you'll just be in set, no instrument in hand, and tell your kids to T-pose, and they'll probably know what that means. It's just going like this. And we're gonna rotate so our arms and shoulders are perpendicular to the direction that our knees are facing. Yep. You'll notice that in order to successfully do this, you have to have that rotation from the hips. Otherwise, you're gonna have a shoulder jutting forward, or it's just gonna feel awkward and strained. But think about your hips having that 30-degree rotation, your chest having that 60-degree rotation, so our arms can have that, or our arms and our shoulders can have that 90-degree. And once we get comfortable with going through exercises like this, it'll be much easier to translate once we have an instrument in our hands, because we're not having to worry about getting that hip around, it just happens. And so real quick, I just want to demonstrate how you can plug the T-pose into just other exercises that you may be doing. So I'm just going to come here on a right slide, and 5, 6, 7, push, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plant, close. So this next basic allows us to take all the concepts that we've been working on and plug them into a larger context. So in essence, the Donkey Kongs or snakes are going to be going forward 8 counts, left 8 counts, forward 8 counts, right 8 counts, forward 8 counts, and you can either loop that again or stop there. But as you'll see, it makes a snake or a Donkey Kong level shape, which is where it gets its name. And this can also be done marching forwards or marching backwards. But you don't want to do it at a tempo that's too uncomfortable. We really want to make sure that they're working, getting those slides effectively and hitting those dots and keeping their spacing, because otherwise it's just going to be training bad habits and they're not going to get anything out of it. And 5, 6, 7, push, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plant, 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 close. So not only does this exercise work on slides, but it also gives us an opportunity to talk about direction changes, what we have to do with our feet in order to successfully do those. And it just works a lot of different things. And you just really want to make sure that they're doing it properly and not training any bad habits. So you can work on all the basics that I've talked about so far in a large group setting, but if you want to have smaller groups that give you an opportunity for some more individual feedback, then I recommend doing across the floors. Basically, this can just be your basics block compressed down and going line by line. This not only gives you an opportunity to spot more individual errors and corrections that need to be made, but it also gives the students a chance to perform for their peers and for them to see how their peers are doing, which can only motivate them to want to be better, and I think it's just a great tool. In the fundamental packet, I have included an outline of the technique that I like to use. Ultimately, if your students are able to march and play beautifully, then I think the technique is viable. And at the end of the day, if you're as sweaty as I am now, that's what your band director likes to see. That means that you were working hard. So I hope these tips were helpful for you, and thank you.